I'm still with my brother, them. I never would change on them. I'ma keep this shit 100. Shit 100. Shout out my dogs, nigga. Free the whole 2100. Free the whole fucking jungle. Free all my day one brothers. I'm still with my brothers, them. I never would change on them. I'ma keep this shit 100. Shit 100. Shout out my dogs, nigga. Free the whole 2100. Free the whole fucking jungle. Free all my day one brothers.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. And we finna react to stupid people at work. Yeah, stupid people at work. We finna react to stupid people at work. Stupid people at work. Stupid people. Stupid ass. Actually, no, I take that back. We finna react to top 10 criminal. Top 10 criminals who almost got caught. Yeah. Make sure y'all subscribe and share my video too.
For some reasons, we humans are all obsessed with crime. We love true crime documentaries like Making a Murderer or the recently revived America's Most Wanted, and we just eat up every podcast about convicted murderers who could be innocent or not. I'm literally that person, you guys. I was binge watching Trials by Media yesterday and I was like, oh my god, how could this be? There are literally tons of studies as to why people like to explore the very dark and terrifying heads of the sickest humans to ever exist. And not sick in like a cool way, sick in like you are sick in a bad way. Now, if you're one of those people, you are going to love this video. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Ayman Hassan, and welcome back to another video. If I sound more manly than usual and more like congested, it's because my cat.
Her name wrong. Bro, Siri, nobody talking.
Neither do allergies. Anyway, today we are getting dark with the top 10 criminals who almost got away. Starting us off at number 10 is Adrian Prout. Now, Adrian Prout was a millionaire who almost, keyword almost, got away with murdering his wife. Prout killed his wife Kate during an argument about their impending divorce, but police couldn't locate her body anywhere on their 276-acre farm. I've watched so many murder cases when someone gets killed on a farm, and because it's so big, no one can ever find.
Also, it's like every person that's trying to get a divorce, they always want to. I done heard people try to hire a hitman to kill the wife. They trying to divorce and junk. So I don't know why they be trying to do that. I guess because they don't want to try to take all their money. Because you know that you got to get half of. Oh yeah, that's it. Yup, I would too. You finna take half of what I made? Oh no. Oh no.
Find the body. It wasn't until his new girlfriend convinced him to take a lie detector test to prove his innocence that everything went tits up, because he obviously failed. He confessed
so his
the
new girlfriend set him up.
And showed authorities where his wife's body was almost 4 years after he killed her. Coming in at number 9 is John List. This guy is as evil as it comes, you guys. Back in November of 1971, John went and murdered his wife, mother, and 3 children in their home in New Jersey. He then disappeared and eluded justice for nearly 18 years after assuming a new identity and remarrying. List had planned the murders so that nearly a month passed before anyone actually suspected something was wrong, which is insane. A nationwide manhunt was launched, nothing was found until nearly 2 decades later when the murders were recounted on Fox's America's Most Wanted. After that, List was located and arrested in Virginia less than 2 weeks after the episode was aired. He died at age 82 while in prison custody, and good, thank God. They took so long to find him. I'm shocked he killed an entire family. Why would he do that? Like, there was no motive.
He probably burned the bodies.
At number 8, we have Brian David Mitchell and his wife Wanda Bazi, which is one of the most famous kidnapping cases to date. When news broke of Elizabeth Smart's kidnapping, it sounded like a scene from a horror movie or your worst nightmare. A 14-year-old girl taken from her bedroom in the middle of the night. You guys, that was literally my biggest fear as a kid. I would be so scared someone was gonna snatch me up in the middle of the night, so imagine how scared she must have felt because it was actually happening to her. For 9 months, Smart was held captive by Brian David Mitchell and his wife Wanda Bazi until someone calls with a possible sighting of her. Smart was located just miles from her house and had been abducted from her home at knife point by Mitchell while her younger sister Mary Catherine pretended to be asleep. Honestly, what else can you do in that situation? I would also pretend to be asleep and then either scream or run to my parents and be like, let's save her before they're too far away. Now Mitchell, who claimed to be a religious preacher, held Smart at a camp in the woods with Barzy. During her captivity, Smart accompanied her captors in public on various occasions and went largely unrecognized by those she came in contact with. They dressed her in full head-to-toe covering to make it hard to identify her. To keep Smart from escaping, she was shackled to a tree with a metal cable, which allowed her limited mobility outside of the tent that she lived in. During her captivity, she was forced to take a new name, and she chose the name Esther after Esther of the Old Testament. It was later revealed during court testimony that Mitchell repeatedly Smart, sometimes multiple times a day, forced her to look at pornographic magazines, and regularly threatened to kill her. He often forced her to drink alcohol and take drugs to lower her resistance, and both starved her and fed her garbage. Smart's abuse was facilitated with the assistance of Barzy, who Smart would later refer to as the most evil woman she had ever met, and girl, I believe you. In October of 2002, Smart's sister Mary Catherine suddenly realized that the abductor's voice was that of an unemployed man the family knew as Emmanuel, whom the family had hired for day to work on the roof and rake leaves. On March 12, 2003, Mitchell was spotted with a woman and a girl in Sandy, Utah by two separate couples who had seen photos of Mitchell on the news. The woman was obviously Wanda, and the girl was Elizabeth Smart, disguised in a grey wig, sunglasses, and veil. She was thankfully saved, and despite the torture and horrible abuse that she suffered, she's gone on to become an accomplished author and child activist.
I know when they found her, they took her straight to a fast food restaurant.
Parents for their money, or were Lyle and Eric Menendez driven to murder because of a lifetime of abuse? Both theories played out in courtrooms twice because the jury in their first trial was deadlocked. The brothers, now in their late 40s but were 21 and 18 at the time of the murders, killed their parents with shotguns in their Beverly Hills mansion. Jose was shot point blank in the back of the head, and Kitty was shot 15 times. Now at first the brothers were not arrested as they told police it was likely a mafia hit or a bad business deal. But in the weeks that followed, suspicions mounted as the brothers began spending money from their parents' fortunate $1 million estate. It's honestly always money motivated, for God's sake. Like, at least wait to spend the money. 7 months after the murders, both brothers were arrested and eventually convicted in 1995. Despite being sentenced to life in prison, both brothers got married while incarcerated and remained in contact. If only they didn't jump at the chance to start living the high life, maybe they actually would have gotten away.
So if I go to the store and I see if I see a dude that look like old dude I just saw on the screen, I'm like, oh yeah, he kidnapped him. Cause what is it called? Stereotype. I do that a lot, and then I be right too. So
murder.
Yeah, you can't tell me nothing. I just skipped the whole video. God damn.
Away with murder.
We're gonna tell your mama.
I maybe think it's Bedella. Producer Chris is telling me it's Bedella, so I'm gonna trust him because he's producer Chris. He can do no wrong. During the late 80s, Robert Bedella tortured and killed 6 men, chopped their bodies into small pieces, and stuffed their remains into dog food bags, according to the New York Daily News. He also kept detailed notes on each of his victims, which later helped investigators prove he committed the murders. Bedella almost got away with it all had it not been for his 7th would-be victim, 22-year-old Christopher Bryson, who managed to escape from the 2nd floor of Bedella's home. Honestly, it's always the very narcissistic killers that keep notes on their victims and take pictures with their victims that end up just being there.
The movie, see? Whenever I watch movies, I be like, I take out scenes that could be like, I look at some scenes that could be real, and that's one of them real, because people do be escaping them, and then they'll go find help and jump. That happened like a couple times. It happened with some kids too. They had a girl handcuffed to the bed, and she got out through the window, and she went to go get help, and the police were always riding out the window, but they couldn't scream or nothing. I don't know who that was or what story that was, but I seen it before. These people crazy, bro.
Downfall. Now, Robert was originally charged with sexual assault, but after police obtained a search warrant, they found human remains in other wallets of his other victims. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and died of a heart attack in jail in 1992. And boy, you deserved it. Coming in at number 5 is Gertrude Beneskiewski. In 1965, police found the emaciated body of 16-year-old Indianapolis resident Sylvia Likens. She was covered in cigarette burns and sprawled out on a filthy mattress in the home of 37-year-old Gertrude Beneskiewski, according to Indianapolis Monthly. Sylvia and her sister Jenny boarded with Gertrude because their parents were carnival workers and traveled a lot. The girls' father paid Gertrude $20 a week in exchange for housing his daughters. But if the money ever arrived late, Gertrude would take her anger out on the girls. And eventually she just focused her beatings on Sylvia alone. But this wasn't a crime of an adult beating a child. Gertrude was the mother of 7 children, all of whom lived in the house and partook in the violent and sadistic attacks against Sylvia. Neighborhood kids, some as young as 10, were invited to join in or watch. No one reported a single thing. In October 1965, Sylvia was beaten to death, and Gertrude apparently forced a neighbor to call the police and tell them Sylvia had just run away. When police arrived at the home, Jenny Likens, Sylvia's younger sister, apparently whispered to one of the officers, "Get me out of here and I'll tell you everything." Just imagine how scared she was. Gertrude got 20 years in prison and was then released. She moved to Iowa, changed her name, and died of lung cancer.
But you gotta think about it, they just wasting your life, bro. Like they kidnapping these girls to waste like 4 years of their life of torturing them and junk. This gotta be the worst thing ever. They be torturing people and then they don't feed them for years. How you gonna take somebody? I'm my own person. You ain't finna take me. I guarantee you that. You ain't finna take me.
1990. The others, who were mainly children, all got away with short sentences, if any at all. At number 4 is Dennis Rader, aka the infamous BTK killer. Rader used to break into his victims' homes in and around Sedgwick County, Kansas, and stalk them before making his move. He would then bind, torture, and kill them, which is obviously where he got his nickname from. He killed 10 people between 1974 and 1991, but wasn't arrested until 2005. Once apprehended
1971 to 1990 something. And they were spread out. So he wasn't doing it every day.
Police searched Rader's home and found photos of Rader with his victims. Rader was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder and is now serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility. Away with murder. Now at number 6 is Robert Badella. I maybe think it's Badea. Producer Chris is telling me it's Badella, so I'm gonna trust him because he's producer Chris. He can do no wrong. During the late 80s, Robert Badella tortured and killed 6 men, chopped their bodies into small pieces. Honestly, it's all to play. And boy, Sylvia and her sister Jen, how scared she was. Well, he sent taunting letters to police and newspapers describing the details of his crimes. After a decade-long hiatus, Rader resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and subsequent guilty plea. It's like he wanted to get caught or maybe get recognition for decades of hard work and killing, and he finally did, but people are smarter now. Either way, this guy is one of the most famous serial killers that almost got away, but did not. Filling on number 3 slot is Joseph James DeAngelo, aka the Golden State Killer. In 2018, a DNA match tied a former police officer to some of the crimes attributed to a California serial killer believed to have been behind at least 12 homicides and 45 rapes in the 1970s and 80s. 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo was fired from the Auburn Police Department and then arrested after a DNA sample came back as a match to the Golden State Killer. Just imagine how shocked his colleagues were, like, Joseph, how could you do this? He has been linked to a total of more than 175 crimes between 1976 and 1986. Officials said Mr. DeAngelo had been arrested on suspicion of committing 4 killings in Sacramento and Ventura counties and charged with 2 counts of murder in the Ventura case. Mr. DeAngelo was fired from the Auburn Police Department in 1979 after he was arrested for stealing a can of dog repellent and a hammer from a drugstore. Because of the era that he committed these crimes, DNA evidence didn't really even exist yet, but thankfully evidence which contained DNA had been collected and stored for years for this very moment. Now at number 2 is Donnie Rudd. This one is pretty crazy. Just a month after 31-year-old Donnie Rudd married 19-year-old Noreen Kumeta Rudd, the teenager was found dead on a country road. She left behind $120,000 in life insurance benefits to her husband, who wasted no time in moving in with another woman. Rudd, who prosecutors say used his upstanding reputation to convince authorities that 47 years ago that the crash that that killed his wife was an accident had been convicted of first-degree murder. On Monday, July 2nd, 2018, a Cook County jury found Rudd guilty of murder in the 1973 death of Noreen Cometa Rudd in Barrington Hills, about 40 miles northwest of Chicago. So hold on, let's just do the math here, you know, like carry the one. Donnie Rudd was not charged until he was 76 years old. Talk about skeletons in your closet. Can you just imagine living your whole life knowing you're a murderer and thinking you got away with it for nearly half a century? No. Come as a bitch and it will come for you. And finally, number one is none other than Ted Bundy. Notorious serial killer Ted Bundy made his way back into the headlines last year thanks to a recent documentary series and a fictionalized movie starring Zac Efron as a charming yet unthinkably dangerous man. We all know that Ted Bundy was eventually caught for the string of murders, sexual assaults, and kidnappings he committed in the 70s. But the details about his confessions are more complicated than you might have thought. So what really happened and how did he finally get caught? Well, to start, we could do a whole video on Ted Bundy alone, but I guess Netflix already kind of did that, so here's like the Spark Notes version. He had been arrested for traffic violations, which then uncovered some of his other crimes, which he then went to prison for, which he then escaped from twice. Are you following me here? It wasn't until he was on death row that he finally confessed to 30 additional murders, but many people think he committed many more than that. We're talking somewhere in the hundreds, you guys. 30. He attempted to escape the electric chair for years, managing to get his execution date pushed back again and again. And he was finally executed on January 24th, 1989 at the Florida State Penitentiary. He finally confessed to most of his murders from 1973 to 78, 2 days beforehand. But if it hadn't been for that initial routine traffic stop in 1975, this story would have been hella different. And that is it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I don't know why I'm smiling this much after all the morbid that I just said, but you know, it is what it is. As always, I've been your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Only I can do
and not sick in like a cool way, sick in like you are sick.
Oh, shut up. Anyway, that's it for this video. Make y'all subscribe. I don't even be knowing what to say after that, really. I just be saying make sure y'all subscribe. Yeah, just make sure y'all subscribe, bro. Make sure y'all subscribe and like the video. I gotta go. What time is it? Oh, I ain't gotta go yet.